All right. We are live with another episode of CAV HQ. I am your host, CAVBoss, with my faithful friend, James. Hello, James.
Hello, hello.
Also, as a special guest tonight, we have Todd Farnholtz, one of our staff painters and well known on the Facebook pages, is joining us tonight.
Good evening.
Hello, Todd. How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing tonight?
We are good. Hopefully everybody can hear us okay. Find out here in a minute. Everybody either can or can't hear you, everybody. Just an FYI, Todd kind of came in this on the late side, so I didn't have a time to get a picture. And so I put Ross's picture up. So
yeah, I don't actually.
You don't look like Ross, but we wanted to have a head for the voice, so people didn't get weirded out or something. So I could have made a little sock puppet or something. Thought that would be. So
sounds like they can hear us. The Hobby Habit says we're all coming in just fine.
Good. So anyway, we have survived another Thanksgiving, apparently. What are you working on right now, James?
Well, I still have these self-propelled guns that I'm tinkering around with. I messed around with a little bit on Monday during the stream. I got some painting done on the one sample unit and got the parts set aside to assemble the other three. And I think I've made the decision I'm just gonna make like a separate base of technicians that are controlling it, maybe build some sort of, I don't know, field console or just some sort of little piece of technology that represents them as some sort of, like drone controllers.
Right.
I just think it'll look good.
How about you, Todd? What are you working on? I thought you said you were going to paint tonight while you're talking, didn't you?
I am overcoating on a mini where a camo scheme I'm trying out failed miserably.
Nice.
So
nice.
I am starting from scratch.
Failure is always a good motivator.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, never be afraid to just paint black over it and start over.
Go for it. All right. So hopefully everybody had a good Thanksgiving. I know that it was kind of a weird one for everybody, certainly for me and my family this year, as we normally have quite a large group, and kind of me and the wife and a couple of the kids and my mom. So how was your guys' Thanksgiving? I know that I saw that Todd did, you cooked your first turkey, didn't you? I see that.
I did, yeah. 37 years old, and I finally cooked my own turkey, and I'm very happy to say it came out wonderfully.
Good.
Congratulations. Good. Turkey is always the big one. James, how did your
Looks
Thanksgiving go?
Yeah.
Just a quick note from the chat. Valkyrie seems to think the volume is a little low.
Tell Valkyrie to turn the TV up.
I'll leave that up to you.
It should not be on our side. According to everything I've got here, we are broadcasting free and clear.
So Thanksgiving around here was good. Just a lot of baking. Last time we did this show, I was downstairs covered in flour. I almost forgot we had a show. I was so busy making cookies and pies and stuff like that.
My wife baked for like 2 days. It's pretty scary. Stayed out of the kitchen. So. If for those that
actually,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have a funny story with regards to that. So, being that it was my first turkey ever, none of my family opted to tell me, or anyone that had done it before, that turkeys cook a lot faster when you put them in one of the baking bags. So I was up at 5:30 in the morning, getting this turkey in the oven, prepped and ready. Did a 25-pounder because we had a big family over, and it was ready by 9 o'clock, and people weren't showing up until about 12:30. So that was a little bit of a learning experience, right?
Well, it's better to be early than be a little late. So you were good to go.
Yeah.
Turkey last. It's not going bad on you. So if you
Yeah,
may or
exactly.
may not have noticed or heard, we did have a Black Friday sale at Talon.games that ran from Wednesday through Monday. I want to say thank you to everybody that purchased. We had a very successful sale. Lots of dual cast minis went out. So we're starting to see those kind of show up in the wild. So hopefully everybody will hear a little more and we'll kind of see some more things that are painted. Speaking of painting, people sometimes forget that we carry the full line, well, sort of the full line, all the Bones paints from Reaper, which are basically the HD paints is what they are. So make sure if you need paints, we have full sets. We've got, I think there's 90, 100 colors, something like that. The line's got really, really big. So we do, and I think they're $2.99 a bottle, which is our everyday price. So that's actually cheaper than what Reaper sells them for. And then we have pick your own paint set where you, if you buy 5, you get the 6th one free. So that works out even better. So don't forget that we have paint.
Yeah, Reaper paints are really
I
good.
would like to also interject that the new CAV colors, John, I've been trying to kind of challenge myself by only working within those available colors when doing new CAV schemes and whatnot. And a lot of them are just absolutely fantastic color-wise as far as like application, smoothness, finish, that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, I think we've got, let's see, that'll be, I think we have 24 colors now in the CAV line. And those are all HD Bones paints. And as we picked for those, we went for some different shades and different colors that you didn't necessarily always see. But I think, especially in the last one with the Templar and the Malvernon ones, I thought we got some really cool colors.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the War Master Bronze. I mean, I love doing things in olive drab anyway, and it's just so smooth.
Good. By the way, hello, Mayor Dude. How are you tonight? Facebook stuff that I've seen this week. Dave Curry has been working on an enforcer, which has inspired other people to buy enforcers, by the way. We had lots of enforcers go out over the last few days. So it's always good to see everybody when you're working on something. So make sure that you're putting stuff up there, and we'll kind of go into that a little further here. Ross is working on a new paint scheme for the Journal of Recognition, an amethryl paint scheme. It's kind of an orange-green or green-orange, however you want to look at it. That looks really, really cool. I know that he put up a picture of the concussion, I think, that he's done, and then he's been working on a Cobra. I don't know if he's put the Cobra up for anybody else to see yet. So that looks really cool.
Yeah, that orange shading he's getting on that Cobra looks fantastic.
Yes, very, very, very nice. And then also James had a little bit of a Facebook thing going on with the Big Stompy podcast. You have put a link up to a Google Drive on the Facebook page so that people can go back and listen to the old ones.
We were, we've been talking about bringing back the Big Stompy podcast here on the Twitch channel. And over the holidays, when I had a little free time, I was thinking, those episodes aren't where people can find them anymore. And while some of it is dated, some of the rules have changed since since we did it. I think Ross's thought processes as you listen to him, break down a faction and just lists in general are valuable regardless of the relevance of the rules. And so I thought, I'll just put these out here where people can find them. We've honestly, since the last time we did a BSP episode, we picked up a ton of new CAV people, and I just thought it might be useful for them.
Yep. No, so like I said, that's on the CAV headquarters Facebook page. That there is a link to the Google Drive that you can download those. So if you haven't listened to them or want to listen to them again, check them out because they did a great job with them, and I'm looking forward to the show starting again. I think that have we kind of settled on a once a month Thursday night? Is that kind of what we're leaning towards?
I think that's the leading CAV in the race right now.
Okay. As we get closer, we'll talk more about it and let you know when we're going to start. But it'll be just a once a month show, and you can either watch it live or catch it on the rebroadcast that you can on Twitch. So talking about that, the doing the podcast and doing Dave and Ross and everybody painting at that. We kind of touched on this, I think, a couple episodes ago about community. We are really trying to push people to start building a CAV community. It's something that we can't do. We have to have supporters and people to get up and help us, and we'll certainly do what we can to help support them. But we really need people to start posting more of their paint jobs and talking about their games and putting up stuff and asking more questions. And it's amazing how I notice every week when a couple of good threads get started on the Facebook pages or whatever, everything goes up. We see more people on the shows. Orders seem to come up a little bit. We get lots of new people talking and asking questions and stuff like that. So it really works. We've got to do more of throwing it out there in front of people, and especially with the current situation that everybody's in right now with COVID and everything like that. The more stuff that we can do online, whether it's on YouTube, on Twitch, or whatever, we would really appreciate everybody really trying to throw in their hand and try something. And it doesn't have to be professional. It doesn't have to be anything. It can be, you see a lot of the other games out there, stuff that people are doing. So, there's lots of ideas. What do you think, Jane? What is things?
Yeah, just about getting the exposure.
Yeah, we just need more and more exposure. So, James, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that's holding us back, and we've all said it a million times, is this stupid COVID thing. When I played in stores, so my local store, my favorite store, Team Covenant, is not a big stompy store. They don't support BattleTech. They don't support CAV in particular. They're kind of a cardboard game store, just a little bit of their feet in the miniatures game, but they'll let us play. They love us to come in and play. And when we would set up the board and lay out the city and populate it with hills and forests and stick our painted calves on there, we drew so many people to look at that thing. People would stop by and ask questions, and a few people wanted to just jump in right there, and we basically let them take over half the battle. It's a visually appealing miniatures game. And I think that's the problem. Is we need an avenue to get the game in front of people's eyes. Hard to do with COVID. The perfect thing would be if we could find a way to do some YouTube battle reports. But I don't know. That's a big hurdle to cross. Maybe something you and I could work on, John.
Well, and we've talked about it, and again, it goes back to that. We're on, a list of 20 things that we're already trying to get done, and I want to get some of that stuff up there. But anything that anybody else can do to help and start getting that ahead is just that much sooner that we can get stuff like that, and I can get the Flashpoint and the JOR and the campaign book out the door. So, especially if you're waiting on those, start getting some stuff out there. Start showing, flying the colors. How about you, Todd? What are some ideas that you think that people can help with?
Well, like it was mentioned, this COVID thing. I've missed just myself. The 3 or 4 California conventions that I would be going to prep this year. Other than just really the online metric is just what we need to push right
Yeah, I mean, because everything is
now.
gone
I don't
on.
really know there's any other way to say
Yeah,
it.
everything is gone online. I mean, there's no magazines. There's nothing to go out there and do anything. There, I mean, you can't even go out and pay for somebody to do something because it's just not out there. The few bigger venues that you're able to do anything, which again are online, are all wrapped around Warhammer. You know, if you're not doing something about Warhammer, they're not going to give you the time of day. And you know, so it makes it very, very hard for us to get that out there. And like Todd said, with the conventions, I mean, and I don't know what the convention is going to look like for next year because usually by now we've already booked all the February, March, April into May shows, and nobody's even sending any paperwork out right now. So you know, they're going to be gun shy because I'm sure a bunch of them got burnt by the hotels last year because those contracts are the way they're written. It's too bad everybody got COVID. You're still paying us. You know, whether you have your show or not. So.
Oh, I was listening to the guys that run the LVO convention earlier today when they were doing their live podcast, and they were basically, they literally said 99% certain that we're going to have to cancel LVO for 2021, and then they went on to detail all the options that the people that already paid for their tickets could exercise in terms of getting their money back or doing something else with those funds. And so the early 2021 conventions are probably dead.
Well,
It's my speculation.
Well, and one of the things that a lot of people haven't taken into account is the fact of, and they're back talking about it again with a new package or whatever. But one of the things that is really stopping the shows too is the fact that they're scared to death they're going to get sued. If you attend the show, catch COVID, go home, you know, God forbid you die or give it to somebody else, that they're all scared to death you're going to come back and sue the show. And part of the package that they've been talking about is, you know, putting a disclaimer in there for where you can't go sue somebody as long as they took appropriate precautions or whatever. They're not going to be held liable. And so if that comes through, that might help a little bit. I don't know.
By the way, I think there may be a dragon in the chat. Mr. Chandler Scott seems to have made an appearance. Hey, Chandler.
I thought it got a little smoky and a little warm. So that would be the dragon. Hi, Chandler. How are you tonight? So, all right. Actually, did you notice I got a list tonight? I'm getting better. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to be a little better, be more organized.
Almost like we had a script.
Almost like we did, like we had one. All right, so let's get into it. We've touched all the little things. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. Table sizes. Bigger, smaller? What kind of table size do you guys like?
Well, I mean, the CAV rules say 6x4, right?
Well, no, I think that there are suggestions in there, but it doesn't actually define what size board that you should play on.
Well, if I can be totally candid, I'm sorry, go ahead, James.
No, please, Todd. I think we're going to the same place.
If I can be totally candid, I honestly really like to do it on a 4x4 table. I know that might seem small given the ranges that are involved, but when I was demoing at, again, various conventions, it seemed to get people's attention a lot quicker because not just the indirect rockets started happening right away, but the various tactics used for the direct fire happened a lot quicker. There wasn't a turn or two of kind of jockeying for position to get to the best firing angles. It was just right off the bat. So I personally just prefer a 4x4.
Well, and James, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, the trend in recently developed tabletop miniature games is to get the play space smaller, to write the rules in such a way that you can play on a 3x3 or a 4x4. That which I mean, just from a logistics perspective, if you're trying to run a game in a store, competing for tabletop space with other products, or you're trying to run a tournament for a popular game that has 20 or 30 people that show up. I mean, there are very few stores that can host, like 10 matches of 6x4. And so, to Todd's point, 4x4, 3x3, where you can, I hate to use the word pack, but where you can get 2 or 3 games in the same space. One, what I think of as traditional CAV game would take is the way to go. Now, those games have had their rules built with that in mind, but I mean, the smaller the better when you're trying to play in a store, I think.
Well, and here's my take on those. Kind of go down the list. And you're right. I mean, 3x3, 4x4 boards fit a lot better in most stores' footprint and the thing they do. The problem there, CAV and other games like that run into, it's a scale issue. Those 3x3 and 4x4 mats are made primarily for 28, 32 millimeters. They have, 8, 10, 12 figures to a side, maybe. And the smaller boards work for CAV for a smaller game, like a squad versus a squad. But, you start adding more stuff, that the board size goes up. But to touch on what Todd said about, getting into the deal, that's the way that when I put this game together and figured out the sizes, of course, with my experience with other games that I've played and worked on over the years, is what I've normally found, is, especially with games that have shooting or what, is, and you can control a lot of this with terrain, but if you start on a 4x6 board, let's say, and you both go on the ends or whatever, everybody runs down towards the middle anyway. So in the first 2 or 3 turns, your 4x6 board goes to a 4x4 space, okay? Because they've already run down on the deal like that. So that's where, to me, is where the differences in the board sizes make the difference in CAV. A 4x4 board works great if you're ready to get right into the action. If you want everybody right off first turn, start shooting and whatnot, you're right into it. 4x6 board generally gives you 1 or 2 turns of movement, a little bit of maneuvering before everybody really starts mixing it up. 4x8 board takes it to that next level. You're going to have 4 or 5 turns of maneuvering. And like Chandler says, you have to take into account the points, the size of the battle that you're playing. Obviously, if you've got 20 or 30 models to a side, trying to play on a 4x4 board, it's going to be a bloodbath.
Could be fun.
It could be fun if everybody's and that helps a lot. And that kind of goes into the next part of that, is the terrain side of it. You can play a lot smaller board, especially if you have a lot of direct fire stuff. If you have a lot of terrain blocking line of sight, you get into a city fight or something like that. You really don't want a big map. I mean, when you're up here for when we did the virtual CAVCon and we played on that 4x6 board, there was quite a bit of buildings and stuff on there, but how much it caught, we spent a lot more time moving than we did shooting.
Well, I think that is just more indicative of urban combat tabletop games anyway. It's definitely much more maneuver focused than, if you're fighting just in a sparsely wooded area or, a couple of hills in the way or something.
Well, and that's the same thing you can do with those type of boards. You can, you just have to kind of look at those trees and those hills as buildings. You set them up and you build your streets, your lines of fire, you put that stuff in there. So it all kind of works the same. So, what do you think? How much terrain is can you have too much terrain? Does it get too crazy?
For pickup skirmish games, I would say probably yes. But going back to the flashpoints that you had released. Oh God, when was it? Earlier this year?
The scenarios.
Yeah, the scenarios. Going back to those, those were fairly for the size of the board. They were fairly dense in terrain, and I thought because it was a scenario, it actually worked really well.
Right. Well, it adds more to the story side of it when you see that stuff on there like that. I know that when I normally do demos at shows, I have a 3x3 mat that I think I use, and I normally do a dictator versus a dictator. You get good fights with those. I mean, you start off right off the bat within rocket range, but or 4x3. They're either 3x3 or 4x3. So you can throw some rockets out there right quick, but with the dictator having those little snack pack rockets on there, you're not really going to do much damage, especially at the beginning with rockets. So everybody maneuvers for the line of sight shots, and you can get some good action out of those and not have a lot of terrain. Usually, I put like a level 3 kind of a hill in the middle and 4 or 5 woods, maybe a pond here or there, and everybody seems to have a real good time playing on that. So, I don't know if there's a perfect size that you have to be, but I think it kind of goes up and down. But and that's where I've heard both sides of it. As far as weapon ranges in CAV are great, or they're horrible because they're so long. But the main reason that I went ahead and did that like that is because, again, my experience with that is if we may, let's say, guided missiles are out to 64 inches. Well, if we made them 32 inches, cut them all in half, all right, now ranges are more equivalent to what people are used to. But then it just turns into 5 turns of movement, and then they get it 32 inches, and then they start shooting anyway. That kind of your guys' experience.
Yeah. You definitely. One thing that I really do like about CAV versus other mech games is it doesn't devolve into turret tech. You have to constantly move. You die very quickly.
Well, and
so having a large board definitely facilitates that.
Well, yeah, and especially with the higher movements, you get some of the aircraft and some of the recon guys and some of the vehicles out there that have 10, 12-inch movements, and they decide to double move. They're down the middle of the board quick.
So in the chat, Papa Bees made the comment that if the terrain helps him hide from guided missiles, there's no such thing as too much. Chandler Scott says that in his experience, usually there are only like 2 channels to really get to the other side of the board. And Papa Bees comes back and says he feels like a turn and maneuver before the fire begins is good.
And I agree with that. That's the reason I like a 4x6 mat or board or whatnot. If I've got a lot of stuff that I'm playing, then I want to go to a 4x8. But a 4x6 board, just like I said, it's you're far enough away that you don't have to start shooting right on the first turn. You don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
If you do, jam forward 12 inches and go for it. But it allows you to kind of get a feel for the board in 1 or 2 turns. As far as Chandler talking about channels, that's strictly in a board setup. And you get that in a lot of games because generally they drop something big in the middle and then they throw some things around the side. And the main thing that I see a lot of people do when they're setting up a board is they're afraid to put something all the way to the outside edges. So they'll build something in the middle and they'll throw some stuff in here, but you have this alley of doom that you can run down the side of either board. That's right now I love my little half water things. I always like putting that half water on the side of each board just to stop that, or put something, a big hill or something that they can't get over.
I think, the question you really have to ask yourself is, what is the goal with CAV when we're talking about table sizes? Is CAV a game that we want to see played in game stores, or is it the sort of thing you play in your basement or your garage? Because those places have completely different needs when it comes to board sizes. As I pointed out earlier, there are plenty of shops in town where you could only play like one or maybe two games of CAV at a time, and that's assuming there's nobody else there wanting the tables. Um, there, back when the Tulsa CAV group was doing pretty good, we had 3 tables going on over at Team Covenant, and we had enough players. We had to double up and play partners because there just wasn't enough space for us to set up 3 big 6x4 boards, and people wanted to play more than just a squad. So at some point in time, you kind of have to ask the question, what's the goal? Where do you want people to play CAV?
Well, and that's you as a player, you have to take that into account. Obviously there are stores that are set up. I walk into some game stores and they've got a room with, there's 20 4x8 tables set up, and you go in there and grab you a table in the morning and you sit there all day and play. You can. A lot of the stores don't do that anymore. Like you said, they're down to these smaller 2x2, 3x3 games where they're sitting across from each other. The only problem that I see with that, I mean, from from a store perspective, what is better? Is it better to have the 2 or 3 foot square mats with 2 guys playing, or having a 4x6 or 4x8 mat with 6, 8, or 10 guys playing? And that's another side of it too.
I think with regards to, I'm sorry, go ahead, James.
No, please go ahead. More of you, less of me.
Say, with regards to that, I mean, if I'm walking into a game store and I see 12 guys around a table versus 4 guys or girls, of course. Then my first inclination is going to be like, oh, I wonder what they're. Well, my first inclination is, are they playing Warhammer? But my second inclination is, what's going on over here? What's getting so much attention here? So, with regards to an FLGS, I'd say, whatever's going to draw the most attention, I guess.
Right.
I mean, you need people to spend money, and they have to have something to spend money on, and so I hate to keep bringing up the Team Covenant guys, but they do a whole lot of podcasts specifically about this subject, about how retailers survive in a modern environment and what's good for them. I think probably the large volume of smaller games is probably better for them personally, but that doesn't mean you can't make it work the other way. I just feel like that's probably the most profitable way for a storefront brick and mortar retailer to survive.
It is. It's the Walmart of game stores. Okay, is the stores that make the most money, that have the nicest things or whatever, is they are a big box looking game store. They don't want to carry CAV or BattleTech or this little game or that little game, or or whatever. Is they want to concentrate on 4 or 5 games that, when they order 1,000 figures or whatever for it, those figures are already sold. Right? They may not have collected the money for it, but all they're waiting for is that box to show up on their doorstep, because in 2 days they're all gone. And that's just the nature of what the beast is. The all around hobby game stores, for the most part, are dead. And they can't worry about the little things. You get the grognards, that'll go to the end of days because they're going to carry World War II micro armor for Command Decision or something like that hasn't been supported in 50 years, but that's the game they played, and they're going to play it to the end of time. And which is fine. I mean, if you can make it work and you've got enough friends and enough people that come in to pay the rent and keep the lights on, more power for you. I think that the game industry as a whole and as a hobby has lost a lot of the things that made it what it was. And it goes back to money. You know, the best and the worst thing that ever happened to the games was Magic the Gathering. It brought in people that have never played these kind of games before. You know, starting with cards, it was an easy introduction and everything like that. But where it all fell apart was when it became a collectible. Is you had a gamer that had $25 a week to spend. Okay, whatever at the time, we were just $25 deal. So he would go into the game store every week and he would spend $25. He'd spend $5 here, $4 for this. Oh, this looks cool. Or this is a new book. I'll try that. Well, then he started playing Magic. So instead of going in there and buying $4 and $5 items from 3 or 4 companies and supporting the hobby as a whole, which is not your responsibility. I'm not saying that this is what you're supposed to do, but that's what happened. Instead, he took that $25 and went and bought a Magic card. A Magic card that's already been sold once or twice that either goes to another player that uses it to buy another Magic card, or it goes to the store, which takes that money and again buys other cards with it. They don't take that money and reinvest it in the 3 or 4 companies that they normally would have used to. And I don't think the hobby as a whole has ever recovered from that, as far as being that style of system. It's just not, it's not around.
So yeah, this is a pretty deep rabbit hole that we could go down, but I mean, it's super, super deep. But I mean, from the store's perspective, they have to look for the thing that they can either turn a volume on or turn, you know, a qualitative, you know, like profit on. So, I mean, they have to be profitable.
Right.
They have to pay the rent. They have to keep the lights on. They have to do what they can do. And so one of the problems with games that are static, you know, like I don't know, like those old World War II miniature games, right? Or the old Ogre miniature game, if any of you out there remember that, is, you know, once you've got your force, you don't need another one. Really, you can play the game with just those models, and maybe the occasional supplement comes out. And so now your throughput, the amount of money you're spending in the store is small. You're buying snacks, maybe drinks, and that's about it. Whereas a game like Magic, where they're constantly overturning the product, you know, where they're like expiring or whatever the right word is. I can't think of what the word is that they do to Magic cards to rotate them out. Makes you come in and buy new cards. And so you're constantly rebuying the product. I think Games Workshop used to do that with their rules. I haven't played Games Workshop in a long time, but they used to turn their rules over the same way. And so every year or so, you would have to rebuy the rules.
They still do it.
Do they? Okay.
Oh yeah.
So, and that's that kind of turnover. So a store builds up a customer base, right? They've got 100 customers. Probably 80 of them play the same games all the time. And so they buy their armies and then they're done. And so you've got those 20 people. You've got to find a way to turn over those older players to get them to buy other things. And the way game stores do that is with either high turnover products like Magic, or by leading them from game to game to game to game to game. So you play miniature game 1, miniature game A, miniature game 2, miniature game Y, and they lead them through these games to get the people that are already built up as tabletoppers to buy new stuff. Sorry.
No, I mean, that's the way it goes.
I'm actually glad you mentioned that, because I've often, obviously, I mean, when you say it out loud, it makes a lot of sense and seems kind of like, well, kind of like a duh moment, right? You know, money by volume. You know, money's what keeps the lights on. I've often wondered how board game companies stay in business with that very metric in mind, because, you know, buy one copy of Monopoly, how often do you have to buy a new one?
Well, but obviously there's something there that works, because, you know, they still print 1 million copies of Monopoly every year. I think I think where board games are successful that we don't realize is they're not trying to fight for 20,000 people. There are 50 million people out there that are buying board games. So it's a totally different, you get some crossover, but there's an audience out there that we'll never see in our industry. that go out and buy a board game that they sit down and play once a week, play it once and throw it away, or give it to the kids when the kids turn 14, or they buy them a new copy. Because I know in my lifetime I have probably bought 20 copies of. They get lost, they lose pieces, stuff happens, I give them to somebody, or so board games is a market that is just crazy, and are doing numbers that we can never fathom.
Okay, so let's take a look at chat for a
Okay.
second. Papa Bees has a question. Says, John, can we talk ROE? I'm not sure what ROE
Rules of
is, but
engagement.
he wants. Okay, what do you want it to be? What do you want it not to be? Generic campaign or using the units in the book?
Okay, so to me, and what we're working on is, I want you to be able to decide if you want to be a mercenary, a house unit, a pirate, whatever you want to be. And you will start off with, and this is just kind of really making it at its most basic level, you will start off with you and a CAV, okay? And as you go through the system that we have, you will grow, and you'll get a second CAV, then you'll get your first squad, and then you get, and the system is set up so that whatever level that you are fits into that system. So if you are one guy in a CAV, you may start off as just a soldier in a house unit, or a soldier in a mercenary unit, whatever. And so you can use the units that we've already introduced into the game to be part of that. So if you want to be, you want to be a human, and there's a role playing aspect to it, and we will give you the basic skills, but you'll build upon that if you want to fill in, and you can take it as detailed as you want to take it, but we'll give you enough of the system so that if you want to start off as a soldier and in a Templar unit, fighting pirates or whatever, then that's what you get to do. And then as you grow, if you want to stay in a house unit, you can stay in a house unit. You'll get command of a lance or a squad, and then you'll get command of a company, and just grow from there, however big that you want to go. And there's a system in place that you have to take into account how you have money or supplies or whatever to spend. So rules of engagement gives you that basic framework. It's going to give you, ways to track your pilots and stuff if you want to be a little more specific and name them and do things like that. It's going to give you a way to generate worlds and generate scenarios and everything like that. So it really takes the bare bones of what CAV is, and adds kind of a role-playing element on it that you can go in as far as your group wants to go, or you want to do. I'm really hoping that we can come up with some solo rules. I don't know if they'll make it into the book, or we can do it as a release afterwards. I know me and James have talked a little bit about it and looking at some things for how it goes, but and like you said there, part of it too is, if you've got a group of 6 guys and each of you are building your own unit or whatever, each week, you'll be on this guy's unit, and 2 or 3 players fight with him, and then the other plays the opposition force. So, there's going to be, that's what I'm going for. I don't know what I don't want it to be, because I think it's pretty, this is what it's going to be. So I don't, I don't, it's going to be more for the players that want a more immersive experience.
Now, if I can interject real quick, I may have missed a post or something, but what's the rules of engagement? Is that a campaign system?
That is the campaign book that we're working on, yes.
Oh, okay, I got you. I might have just had a brain fart and forgot.
We have 3 projects that are under construction, under design right now. There's the first Flashpoint, there is the first Journal of Recognition, And then there's the rules of engagement, which is going to be the campaign system. Probably the most thorough of those three will be the campaign book. Then in the future, after the campaign book comes out, the flashpoints will tie into that too, because we'll put stuff in the flashpoint that works with the campaign book. So
well, that'll be exciting. Very exciting.
I am. It's going to be going to be super cool. I can say that. I really think it's going to be. Now, the other thing that we are doing with the rules of engagement is we are including the basic rules out of the CAV book. There's 35 pages or something like that. There's actually the core how to play the game. And obviously we've made some changes. We've had some errata since that book came out. We are going to update that section so that it covers all that, and we'll also include that in the rules of engagement book. So when we come out with that, you'll have a nice book with the updated rules in one place without having to go out and buy a brand. We're not invalidating your rule book. I know that there's things in it that have changed because of errata or whatnot, but 80% of the book is still valid, and I don't want to, unlike the Games Workshops of the world, I don't want you to have to buy a new book once a year as far as a new, I'm not saying that we'll never do an updated version of the rule book down the road, but that's way down my list to worry about right now. With the Journal of Recognition will include the updated construction system from the book, and then the rules of engagement will include the core rules on how to play. But as far as that, your rule book is still good. I'm not going to toss in the trash, and I'm not making you go out and buy a second rule book. I figure if you're playing CAV, you're going to buy the campaign book anyway, so why don't we just throw the rules in there so you've got them in one.
I like that idea. Papa Bees likes that idea too.
Yep. That's how you foster brand loyalty.
Well, and that kind of goes back, and like James said, we can go down the rabbit hole and spend all on the day that CAV is never going to be a big box game. It's not going to happen. CAV is not ever going to be the game that is going to go up there and compete with Games Workshop or whatnot or like that. I want to get a core group that is loyal to the game and plays the game, and we get. I mean, really, CAV. I mean, our lifeblood is miniatures, because I say that all the time. It's hard to be a miniature company if you don't sell miniatures, but that's the way some of the companies look at it. But we have so much crossover. We get guys that buy our minis for this, and and with vehicles and stuff like that, they can work for other scales and whatnot. So that's part of dual cast. That's the reason we're bringing this system, that we've developed this and put this together and come up with our own mix for the material that we're going to use and whatnot. And that way we can get more and more minis out there, and that will help grow the game. And every once in a while, somebody buys a tank or something and they think it's cool and they go, well, I'm going to go check out CAV, So that's how it grows. Now, as far as having the entire book as a PDF for sale, no. And here's why. I am an old style gamer, and I know that in this great world that we live in, people like to have that. I like to have a book in my hand. Now, and if that kills me and makes everybody hate me, there's worse things in the world I could do. But I will say this: when we do the rules of engagement, we will take that section of rules at 35 pages, and we will put that out as a PDF as well. So you'll be able to get the core rules as a PDF. You're not going to have all the background stuff and necessarily the construction system, which you really don't need the construction system as long as you can download our
software.
that takes care of that. So you will be able to get the core rules as an MDF or as a PDF. There's
You're going to sell the core rules in
yeah,
MDF?
you're gonna hold up your little card. There's so many acronyms out there. It all mixes up and stuff like that. That's how I found I was buying minis from Reaper. Yeah, Reaper has been a distributor for us from the very beginning. You know, and they're great for that. We sell a lot of minis through Reaper. So
I just want to observe that Ilmarin, I believe, is who I think he is. I'm not going to dox him. He hasn't stopped buying miniatures. It's scary how many calves that person has bought. Literally scary.
Well, I'm a firm believer you can never have too many calves.
He's trying.
So I think back to, when I played that other game, how metal mechs I had. That was super scary. So anyway, so that's where we're at. We're trying to really work with all that and build from that, but we have to look at it from the reality of where we're at. There's on any given day, there's 2 or 3 people that are working on CAV stuff. There's more stuff than we have people. So okay. No, I knew you were Roger. I know who Papa B is.
Yeah. And Mayor Dude says his wife is in disagreement with your statement that there are no such thing as too many calves.
Yeah, well, I happen to know Mayor Dude that doesn't seem to slow you down. So I always know when a Mayor Dude order comes through. How will dual cast work with a backstock? I don't think that's looking at them. Well, here's what's going to happen with backstock is we will not go back and redo a mini. As far as we're not going to say, okay, here's the Ronin. We're discontinuing Roman from Kickstarter 1 and replacing it here. Okay, we're not going to do that. Whatever Ronin model, whatever Emperor model, or whatever is out there, even like the original Despot, those will always be that model and they'll never be replaced. What we will do as models run out and we don't have any original plastic is we will do an updated version. And it'll be a variant. There'll be changes in it, just like we did with the Despot B. If you take the new dual cast tank and put it next to the old one, there are a lot of differences in them. You may not see it unless you have the two of them together. And that's how we'll do it. So as models run out, or we'll do a variation of one, we'll change it up, and that'll be a new model that comes out. So we're not discontinuing anything and say, okay, this is what you got or whatever. Now, a lot of that stuff is running out, especially a lot of Kickstarter 1 models. We are down to the bare bones. I know that, the Tusekis, the Despots, the Chieftains, I mean, there's just a lot of those that we are just down to the last few. So as we go forward, we'll come up with new versions, and that's where we'll be. But yeah, they'll all be new models every time. It won't be we just won't take an old one and start doing it in dual cast. As far as how they will be differentiated, we are going to have some new cards that are going to be coming up. I think the easiest way to tell is the same way that with Reaper and the stuff that they're doing with their new stuff is our dual cast will say made in the USA on the bottom of it. So if it says made in China, it's not dual cast. If it says made in the USA, it's dual cast. So, but we'll let people know. We may add a DC or something to the product number.
So I think what you said is, as Kickstarter 1 models run out of stock, they won't be replaced on exactly. You'll make a new variant and create it in dual cast.
Yes.
Did I understand you correctly?
Right. It'll be all new from scratch model. We'll totally redo it. So, and you may or may not like the changes. I know we haven't really put any artwork out there or show anything, but I know everybody's big about the Mastodon. They love the Mastodon. I'm here to tell you right now, the new Mastodon, you'll know that it's a Mastodon, but it isn't the original Mastodon. There's changes with it that's going to be coming with it, because a lot of these models were designed 15 and 20 years ago. Things have changed. There's different ways of doing things, and we can make them look a lot nicer. I think a lot of Kickstarter stuff, 3 is a prime example. If you take the Crusaders, the Revenants, the Butchers, and stuff like that, and put them up to the ones that were the original one, they're night and day. I mean, they're just, to me. So yes, yeah, they'll be totally legal. And what's going to happen is, as we do more variants of some of these models and stuff like that, the Despot V will become the de facto, any kind of Despot that you have, you'll throw it out there. So, but yes, we don't never make any kind of, if it's a model made by us, it's always going to be legal to play in a tournament. It does have one BFG, so you'll be good there.
It's time to start thinking about wrapping up.
Oh, are we already getting to that time? Wow.
8:57.
And we didn't even make it down to the end of the list.
It's Todd's fault.
It's Todd. Well, you guys get me talking about stuff, and I'm out here in BFE, Kansas, all by myself, and I don't get to talk to people about game stuff very much. So you get me talking, and it's like, oh, you won't shut up.
Papa Bees wants to know when he can buy the books.
They will all release at some point next year. I swear to God, everything will be out at some point.
3.
The Flashpoint. Okay. There's a good chance the Flashpoint will be out this year. I'm that close.
Wow.
So I'm trying to finish up art. I don't know if everybody's been watching my last few Tuesday terrain builds. I'm working on all the desert terrain, because a lot of the Flashpoints on the desert world to start with, and so we're doing lots of pictures, a lot of more photography of models and everything this time, as opposed to straight illustrations. So I'm finishing that up, and once we get all those pictures done, we'll finish out the layout, and it'll be available out. The PDF for the Flashpoints for the first one's a freebie, so you'll get that. The JOR and the Rules of Engagement book are going to be some point next year. We're still working on, again, the JOR right now is more of an art and model issue. We're trying to get the each, and this is the other thing that people need to understand about the JOR is we have to take just some models and put in the book. We'll do a JOR2 that'll have some more, and as we go down the road. If we tried to take every model and put in one JOR book right off the bat, it'd be that thick. I mean, because we're really trying to be more inclusive with this, so that it shows more of the schemes, talks about more of the units, and brings a lot of that background information rather than just being a line drawing of it or whatever. So hang in there. Again, Tuesday nights are when I'm working on a lot of Flashpoint terrain right now. So if you want to jump in and talk about that, Tuesday nights will be a great night. And I want to remind everybody that my Tuesday show going forward is at 8 p.m. I'm just doing an hour now, 8 to 9, but that way all of our weekday shows are at the same time. So it'll be Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We'll have an 8 o'clock show for an hour every night. The JORs are multi-faction and multi-unit. We're taking some from everybody and putting in there. We are not going to do a JOR per faction. No, not going to happen. Because here's what happens if I do that is if I put out a JOR per faction and everybody likes rock, then we sell out a rock, and then I have 5 other factions and I have 300 books sitting on the shelf. So we're not going to do that. Every JOR is multi-faction, multi-units, there's aircraft, there's this, that, and there's some other background stuff that we're including in there. And the first one will also have the construction system. So, all right. So I need to wrap this up because I know James is looking at me like, you need to be done. Quit talking. I know that look, James.
You got to save something for next week, John.
Luckily, I don't have to have Todd looking at me too. Just Ross looking at like his little lost deer headlight look. All right. So I'm going to talk more about it later, but I wanted to bring it up since it's on my list. A lot of talk has been coming up about 3D printing buildings. There's a lot of stuff that you can get out there. If you're looking for something to start with, on our downloads page, down way at the bottom, there are some building 3D STL files that you can download that you're free to use. They are scaled for 6mm, so you need to upscale them about 150, 160% to get them in. I keep going to go in and rescale them, and I just don't get around. So there's that. If you want to download those for free and use them or whatever. Our MDF line is getting much closer. I think I've talked about it a little bit. If you're familiar with any of the 3D models that Thunderhead Studios has been doing, we are going to be doing some work with him and coming out with MDF versions of all those buildings in 10mm scale. So that's going to be a big announcement that's coming up pretty soon. And we'll go more in that. So last thing is James' show is on Monday, and he's doing miniatures at 8 o'clock. Tuesday is the terrain show with me at 8 o'clock. Wednesday night is this cluster that we do.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's fun. I hope you have fun, James. I hope I'm not having to crack the whip for you. And then Sunday at 2 o'clock, and these are all Central Time, by the way, is Chris Lewis, one of our.
You mean Saturday?
Saturday at 2 o'clock is one of our sculptors, and he has been working the last 2 or 3 weeks on 28mm infantry. I won't go into more about that. We've talked here and there a little bit about it. We've got an upcoming project that he's working on it. So if you want to check that out and offer suggestions to him and stuff, what's going on, that's what he's working on right now. So final comments, James. What do you want to say?
Well, I'm excited to see these 28mm infantry come to fruition. I'm super excited to listen to Todd and Ross when we get together, hopefully for the Big Stompy podcast reunion plus a buddy. And I'm excited for Christmas. Don't tell anybody. I'm a little kid at heart.
Cool. And how about you, Todd? What are your big final comments you want to make?
I'm excited to be the third wheel on the upcoming Big Stompy podcast.
That's going to be your new nickname, by the way.
Actually on
Todd Third Wheel Farnholtz.
That handle doesn't have quite the same ring to it, I don't think.
I like your original.
I'm excited for 2021 to hopefully bring CAVCon back, because yes. I really missed that this year.
Well, in talking about that, I need to start putting that up too. Is we're going to do another virtual show in March. We've talked a little bit. I've hinted around to you guys. Hopefully, we can get some of you more in town to participate in that. We're going to try to get a lot more people involved so that we have some other events and things going on. And then towards the end of back in October-ish, September-ish again, we'll look at doing a live one. I don't know if that'll be part of ReaperCon yet or not. I don't know. We've both kind of outgrown each other, so we may have to do something different, but we'll see. But my hope is going forward that we will have a virtual and a live show every year. All right. So yes, Papa V's Big Stompy is coming back. They're going to do one Thursday a month. So anyway, so from me and James and Todd, thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. Sorry if we rambled or I rambled. It's been that kind of a day. So, but I look forward to everything that we're doing. I'm super excited that you guys are excited. So hang in there. And like I said, help us build the game. Whether you're going into stores, running demos, putting battle reports up on YouTube, doing painting demos, talking about models, whatever. I will do whatever I can do to help you from our side of it. We'll go from there. So other than that, have a good night. Say good night, Gracie.
Good night, Todd.
Good night, James. Good night, John.
Good night, guys. Thanks again for joining us tonight, Todd.